Hi, everyone. My name is Mo Gong. I am the executive assistant here at the Dare Chappelle Foundation. Welcome to the first annual gala. It has been an amazing program so far, and we're excited for this next piece of the conversation, which is a conversation with Jasmine Clarke and Aaron Turner, two of the foundation's artists in residence. Jasmine was a artist in residence at Lightwork, and Aaron was a photographer in residence at the Ogden Museum of Southern Art. We're about to share with you a brief conversation that the two of them had to share exclusively with this group here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support for the foundation, and we hope you enjoy this conversation.
In preparation for this, I started thinking back to a podcast interview we did for the Photographers of Color podcast back in the fall of 2020, around November or so. We spoke about your work, Shadow of the Palm, which has been in two exhibitions I've curated between the years 2020 and 2022. One iteration was at Blue Sky Gallery in Portland, Oregon. And then the most recent one has been here at the Phoenix Art Museum, as you can see on the screen. And so I'm a big admirer of your work because within the vastness of images produced that we as a society are immersed with, you have a very unique perspective and approach and use of the camera of photography. So to sum up the Shadow of the Palm, and please fill in any gaps that I may be leaving out right now, but you're photographing family, you're thinking about the journey of your father growing up in Jamaica and coming to the States, paralleling you growing up in the States and visiting Jamaica over the course of your life. Shadow of the Palm deals with dreams, it centers around illusion, it deals with the idea of deja vu in your work. So how do you sum up all of that using the camera? How do you have all of those experiences and choose the camera to document and share, to sort through all of those complex dynamics?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having this conversation with me again. I mean, I think of photography and the camera as really a conduit for connection, something that really links, our world to our thoughts. It seems like kind of one of the most direct mediums for that. And I like it, or I say that because I've said this before, but I really do think of photography and the camera as a mirror to our world. So not necessarily a replica. Maybe it doesn't show what is, but it shows different possibilities or what could be. And in that way, it's also a very mysterious medium because of how clear it is at times. It shows us something very close to our world or to reality, but not quite. And I think sometimes there could be an idea that the camera creates a document or is a type of document. But more than that, I'm interested in a pervading mood or tone, or how do you get across a certain feeling, like deja vu or like jamais vu, which would be foreignness and what should be known into an image.
How do you think about everything leading up to the exhibition and then the intentions around sharing your work outside of yourself, and personal intentions, and how is that developing moving forward as an individual? Maybe I guess there's like a second question in there, like how do you imagine future installations or future ambitions and intentions as an artist, like when your work goes from you making it to actually sharing it with an audience?
Yeah, it's a great question. It can be tough sometimes, because when you're making the work, I think, or at least for me, I like to be focused on that process, maybe separate from thinking about showing the work. But I think scale has played a big role. So like you said, maybe switching from 16 by 20 to 20 by 25, thinking about the viewer experience or what could be more immersive.
Mhm.
So going forward, I think that'll be something that I continue to think about for future shows, or how to add richness or lushness to the print or to the surface of an image, as well as depth in a literal sense. How do you make something flat seem dimensional?
Yeah.
And I mean, I also, just going back to those 4 images, the photograph of my Nana's fence with the smoke coming up, I've really attached myself to this idea, again, of like what an image reveals and hides, this top left image.
Mhm.
Because you wouldn't necessarily know that smoke is from cooking jerk chicken in the backyard. That's something that I'd have to say. So I like the idea of what information a viewer is privy to or not, or what do I, thinking about installation, what do I want to keep to myself? I don't normally show faces in a lot of my images. What differences would that make? Or how does that change my relationship to uh, the show, or to the camera? Because I obviously take those pictures, but I've noticed that when I'm showing work, it's not something I tend to feel drawn towards,
Yeah.
which is something I'm still working out. But I'm just thinking about it now. I could see that being worked out.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm glad you revealed that about that image, because it can just exist on its own, but it's so interesting to, because not all the time you'll be able to talk to an artist directly, when you're going to an installation, or even hear them talking about it in some capacity. So just to even have that background information can kind of start to add more dynamic to the image that's already dynamic, just existing out in the world. And that's why I mentioned all those things. Like we go along and we exist as everyday people. We play all these other roles in our lives that kind of intertwine in what we do as artists. And I think, like, just at least for myself and what I've seen from other people, just the more and more art that you make, and then the more and more like everyday life that you live, the more experiences that you have in life, it starts to really develop how you interact with people,
Mhm.
especially as an artist. Like, like you mentioned, what do you reveal and what do you keep back? And,
Mhm.
10 years from now, this may be a totally different way that you choose to present your work overall.
Mhm.
So I really love seeing that type of growth in artists, and kind of that anticipation behind that. So I'm really looking forward to future iterations of your work, and I hope I'll be a part of that.
Really.
Fortunately, be a
Yeah.
part of that. So yeah.
100%.
But do you have anything else you'd like to add, Jasmine?
Um, let me think. I mean, maybe I could share a quote that I've been thinking of. Maybe that would be
Sure,
appropriate, and
absolutely.
from an Elizabeth Alexander poem.
Okay.
So I'll read it. In sleep, I am looking for poems in the shape of open V's of birds flying in formation, or open arms saying, I forgive you all.
Mm,
That was nice.
nice. And so where would you, this might be a bad follow-up question, but they can take it out, leave it in or take it out if they want. But where's that applicable to your practice now? It sounds really like um, the similar ideas around deja vu, or correct me on the other pronunciation. It's I always get it wrong. Jamais vu. Yeah, it kind of sounds like it's at least in my brain, kind of going back towards those things about the reality in the images and the familiarity in the images, but also like this fictional mirror thing that gets curated. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought I'd share it because I liked what you were saying about you know, where artists or people in general are a collection of their experiences. And something that maybe we do as photographers is choose where to point the lens or what we want to put forth. And in that way, I sometimes see photography, or at least the way that I like to shoot, as the most similar to poetry,
Mhm.
in its form and in the way that the images stick with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and in that way, I think it's related to dreams. But I love this idea of open arms, you
Mm.
know, being like almost like a funnel, ready to kind of take in everything,
Yeah.
and maybe output whatever sort of sticks down
Yeah.
the funnel as it kind of closes,
Yes.
like a formation of birds. kind of.
Yes. I totally get that. And I'm thinking about that again as you're speaking. It makes me think about music.
Mhm.
And I think photography needs, or it benefits from things like poetry and things like music, in various iterations. But yeah, that idea of like open arms, I would say that I do get that from your work.
Mm.
And to just, because that's such a grand, it's like a grand idea. Like when you think about it, it is like, how do you even pursue that
Mhm.
as an artist, as an image maker?
Yeah.
And then I guess the obvious answer is just, you just make more. You just keep making images until you get to that spot
Mhm.
that you feel you arrived at. So yeah. But yeah, if nothing else, Jasmine, thank you so much for your time and speaking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. This is great.
All right. Okay.